Well, the role of Musk in this new Trump administration is very fascinating. It's almost as if he's the vice president rather than JD Vance. Now, we know that Elon Musk has strong views on the Ukraine situation. He proposed a peace plan, which frankly was shot down by the Ukrainians, in my view, rightly so, because it was really a surrender plan for Ukraine. But Musk's other uh, role in all of this is the role played by his Starlink satellite network.
So the US has brought charges against an Afghan national over an alleged Iranian plot to assassinate Donald Trump before the presidential election. The indictment alleges that Farhad Shakeri had been ordered by Tehran last month to devise a plan to kill Donald Trump. Now, two other men based in the States have also been charged. Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson Esmail Baghaei has denied the accusations. Well, joining us now is Arthur Snell, former British diplomat and author of the book How Britain Broke the World. Arthur, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Lexus.
How serious is this discovery of this plot, and is it as surprising as it sounds?
Well, let's address the serious point first. The guy who's been accused, Shakeri, is in Iran. So according to the reports, he was in touch with Americans in the US that he had been at one time. He was in prison in America, and he effectively the plan was that he would give them money and they would carry out the plot. Now, the degree to which two sort of random guys in America would be able to assassinate Donald Trump is questionable. I mean, clearly during the campaign, we saw the various attempts on Mr. Trump's life. So I suppose what I'm saying is that if this is correct as reported, this is not sort of the full resources of the Iranian state. It seems to be a rather odd plot trying to effectively outsource it to a couple of criminals in America.
Let me play you this clip, Arthur. I want to get your thoughts on this. This is earlier on Times Radio. Iranian-American academic at the University of Tehran, Professor Mohammad Marandi. He is sympathetic to the Iranian regime. He told Times Radio Breakfast this morning that the United States shouldn't be surprised at the poor state of diplomatic relationships between the two countries because, he went on to say, the US has attacked, antagonized, and explicitly threatened Iran.
I think the US regime is the side that is to blame for Iranian anger. The U.S. regime supported Saddam Hussein in invading Iran, helped him with the Europeans to get chemical weapons, and then they turned against Saddam Hussein and destroyed the country. And the same U.S. regime sanctioned ordinary Iranians to make them suffer as much as possible. How come it is normal? Because I just heard it from you, and it's true, that Trump says he'll blow Iran to smithereens, but that's okay. But if a bunch of people in Iran chant death to America, and for reasons that I've already explained to you, including blowing Iran to smithereens, that is somehow evidence that Iran is at fault here.
What do you make of those comments, Arthur?
Well, I think they're in a rich, long line of Iranian sort of self-victimization. You know, they talk of America as the great Satan. They hark back to events of the 1950s. And it's true that, of course, America did interfere in Iran's politics then, but, you know, that's a long time ago. And what you didn't hear him mention was the storming of the US embassy during the Iranian Revolution, and, of course, the taking of US diplomats hostage by Iranians, which by any global standard is an unacceptable act. So obviously both sides can trade accusations. Iran is a sponsor of terrorist organizations that operate in many parts of the world, and you don't have to be a fan of Mr. Trump to feel that America is right to see Iran as a threat.
Arthur, a lot of guesswork is happening at the moment on what the US foreign policy is going to be like, not just towards Iran, but particularly towards Ukraine. We've had reports in various media outlets that Donald Trump has had a phone call with President Zelensky, on which Elon Musk was also on the call. What do you make of that?
Well, the role of Musk in this new Trump administration is very fascinating. It's almost as if he's the vice president rather than JD Vance. Now, we know that Elon Musk has strong views on the Ukraine situation. He proposed a peace plan, which frankly was shot down by the Ukrainians, and in my view, rightly so, because it was really a surrender plan for Ukraine. But Musk's other role in all of this is the role played by his Starlink satellite network, which effectively provides internet services to much of Ukraine, but is also used by the Russians. It's been used by the Russians on drones targeting the Ukrainians. So Musk is an interested party, but his interest is a financial one, I would argue, rather than sort of strategic or in any way patriotic.
There is talk. I mean, Donald Trump keeps saying that he can bring the whole conflict to an end even before he actually officially takes office on January 20th. And in that arrangement or whatever he can bring together, there is talk of, well, Ukraine is going to have to settle for losing some of its territory to Russia. Is that all there is to it, in your view, Arthur? That Ukraine is going to concede some territory that's been traditionally occupied by Russian-speaking Ukrainians, that the Russian military has been present in for a long time? Is that really all there is to having a solution to this war?
Well, Ukraine would say very much not. But I suppose if Mr. Trump says, this is what you need to do, we'll draw a line basically where the current front line is, which is 20% of Ukraine plus Crimea. And yes, historically, plenty of people there spoke Russian, but it was always Ukraine. There's never a doubt about that. But if that's what they say, and then Mr. Trump says, and we're not going to continue to supply you, Ukraine, with weapons, but also let's not forget its funding as well. You know, the Ukrainian economy is functioning on a lot of Western aid because it needs that to keep going. If that happens, I don't think the Europeans have the wherewithal to continue to supply Ukraine. They ought to. You know, our economies collectively are way bigger than Russia's, but we don't have the defense industry base. We're not able to churn out the munitions at the rate that they need them. So it's quite possible that Trump will effectively force that on the Ukrainians. That would be a huge gift to Russia. We could speculate as to why Donald Trump wants to do that. Why is he so keen for Russia to effectively win this war? But if that happens, it may be there isn't much that the rest of the world can do to stop him.
Do you see a situation where there is that concession of territory, but in return, Ukraine joins NATO? Would Putin ever settle for that?
I can't see why he would. And let's not forget that Trump doesn't really think much of NATO anyway. So perhaps Trump would say, fine, let them join NATO. I don't really care about NATO. But the point there is that NATO works because of a belief by its members that that they will act in collective self-defense. Now, when you have Trump in the White House, it's arguable that belief is not sort of correctly held. That actually, do we really think Trump would come to the aid of Latvia if it were attacked by Russia? I don't know.
Look, finally, Arthur, being a former British diplomat, Jack Straw, I think, gave an interview recently saying that Labour should use Nigel Farage as a back channel to Donald Trump. What do you make of that suggestion?
I think that clearly Farage has relations there in the Trump camp, and probably more extensive than almost any other British politician. Setting aside what any of us might think of his politics, I think the difficulty is that Nigel Farage's ambitions are, very clearly focused on UK politics. So I don't think he'd be an honest broker, and I think that's the issue, that you wouldn't be able to use him as a back channel because you don't know what sort of shade he's putting on those messages.
Arthur, thank you so much for giving us your time, as always.
My pleasure.
Arthur Snell there, former British diplomat and author of the book How Britain Broke the World.